Hello, everyone. I am Geronimo, and today I'm joined with the Alpha Rejects. Welcome to our podcast. Today I am joined by Pius, to my right, your left on the screen,
Hello.
myself, oops, my bad, myself, Geronimo, then Lysander, the guy in the cloak,
Hello.
and then Spy is our last one, the tall one, with the mask on him.
Howdy.
We got to keep him masked up for public safety.
Right.
No one can know my true identity.
Government
So-
secret.
What government? We don't follow any government.
Oh, okay. My bad.
So, we are a starting podcast, and we're going to try something out, really. And as you can kind of see, we are a 40K themed podcast. Don't sue us, GM or GW.
Please don't sue us.
Well, there's 1,000 other podcasts that deal with this exact same subject. I think we'll be fine.
If you're going to sue us, please take my student loan debt.
You still have student loan debt?
I have a lot of student loan debt.
Okay.
I mean, they can try and sue me, but I ain't worth anything. So
Go
for it, GW.
So today, the reason for this podcast is going to be introductions to build some trust. And you should totally trust the Alpha Legion.
because we never lie.
I was hoping for the emoji one, or the Among Us one. Yeah, so much better.
There you go.
So, today we're going to be answering some questions, because everyone else wants to go straight into it. With us, we're going to try and build some trust. Big if.
Trust
Yeah.
us.
So, with that, we'll be answering questions from left to right. And the first one up will be Pius here.
Yeah.
And the first question is going to be, how did everyone get into the Warhammer hobby to begin with? And what were some experiences that made you fall in love with the hobby?
All right. So, long ago in a galaxy far, far away called Augusta, Georgia in 1993, I had some very generous friends who introduced me to the hobby, including hooking me up with my first models. Like you can see with my little avatar here, definitely into the squats. I've been playing like tabletop RPGs for years and years and years. Always had a love for dwarves, so the idea of space dwarves with guns, I was all over that. I had two very generous friends who really supported me. A shout out to Brian and Robert. If you ever hear this and have any clue what's going on, you guys are awesome, and I miss and love you. Um, and they helped me by not only teaching me how to paint, but also hooking me up with a lot of my very first models. And so I had a nice little squat army, including some things that you don't see much anymore. Like somewhere around here, I've got the Easter eggs of Doom that were the Chaos Squat Terminators. And my painting was absolutely atrocious, but they got me addicted. And that actually led to my first actual game of 40K, where I was playing my squats against another friend of mine. His name's Troy. His army of Eldar, and man, I was so mad because his Eldar were the old swooping hawks, and they had an ability where essentially they could just disappear off the field when it wasn't their turn, and unless you had specific abilities, you just couldn't take them out. They'd appear, have their ranged attack, and then disappear.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it going to be in the Discord?
The
Pictures
Easter
you
egg of
want to
Doom?
show. Pictures you want to show.
I dropped some of my squats a while back, and we can certainly share
Cool.
those. Those would be cool
Let's start
in
the
the podcast.
projector.
Yeah,
Boop.
yeah.
And
You
that
can
is
show
now
some
the
of those.
Legionnaire.
There you go. Oh, that is my. This is my wife's creation. This is the Catachan cheerleader that she created. Oh, I better get back to the Swooping Hawk story. Sorry, easily distracted. Squirrel. Anyway, the objective was to take out a certain character on the mission, and being able to just run my squat motorcycle guys across the board and run the character figure over and win despite not taking out a single one of my opponent's uh, models was really what hooked me on them, and that's what had me in. So besides squats in fantasy, I got into my Rat Boys. I'm a Skaven fan there, and by extension, really into AdMech because I'm convinced that AdMech are the Skaven of the 40K universe who knows what's going on under them robes. I have a few Space Marines that I'm working on. As you can see there with my Bronze Boys, those are my Sons of Helaman that I've been working on, that I made years and years ago, and I'm currently working on my Rangers army, which are some cowboy-themed Space Marines that I am repurposing from some Space Wolves dog boys that were gifted to me. So that's where I'm at with that.
Very good, very good. Did you guys have any questions for Pius?
Yeah. You mentioned that your friends got you into this crazy and interesting hobby. And you talked about your wife painting the Catachan cheerleader. Anybody else in your family into this kind of hobby, or is it just you?
So we raised a whole family of gamers. All of my kids game, and so they've painted miniatures from time to time, mainly for use with tabletop RPG. They weren't really interested in doing the large armies or even skirmish level games, except my middle boy. He has shown some interest lately, so we're looking at helping him build out his first skirmish and then some armies as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, if you can't find a gaming group, make one. Literally.
Yeah. Honestly.
Lol, still working on it. Literally
Yeah.
2 years later with friends. Not working out.
Working out. And that leads me to a bit of advice for anyone who's listening out there and has little ones they're interested in getting the hobby. Get them while they're young, when they actually want to spend time with you, and they're still in that age where they do things to like imitate their parents. And instead of letting them practice on your really good figures, go buy some army figures from Walmart and let them paint those. They'll never know the difference, and they'll just be happy as heck to be sitting at the table with you and painting. And then that's going to lead to a lifelong addiction where they are losing all of their money, but they're also developing patience, creativity, and some talent. So definitely do that S-tier gamer parenting.
That is the best idea I've ever heard. My son's about to
Yeah.
turn 5, and he loves watching me paint and do arts and crafts and stuff. And I haven't really let him do a lot. When I did my display board for Armies on Parade last year, I let him like stain the wood on the border of my display board, and he was all into it. So the whole little army figurine, I'm gonna do that next week.
Yeah, get those cheap bag ones or whatever, and they'll love it. It's just good family stuff.
Awesome.
Good stuff, good stuff.
Yeah, well, if I ever have any kids, then I'll definitely be doing that.
Cough, cough. Already thinking about kids.
Yeah, no, I'm far from it.
Well, is that everything you wanted to share on the first question?
That's all I can think of.
All right, then. Guess it's my turn. So I am Geronimo, and I got into Warhammer recently, back in 2019, back when things were still kind of sane. And I got into it because I found it on accident, honestly. And my buddy was putting a rifle together, a 1903. Is anyone familiar with that?
No idea.
Like a 1903 Springfield.
Yep, that's the one.
Gotcha.
Nice.
And I was thinking it'd be nice to make a kind of display to go with it, because I want one just because of the history that it has. So
Yeah.
I'm looking up uniforms of different types of things, and I come across a picture of the Death Corps of Krieg. And I look at it, and I go like, huh, this is not World War II. This is not World War One. And I could see all of the characteristics of different uniforms in the picture. And I clicked on it and goes like, Death Corps of Krieg clearing trench. I go like, this isn't World War One. There's no Death Corps in World War One. So I just went down the rabbit hole and I just fell for them, especially with how they're portrayed as those wanting retribution, wanting forgiveness. They want to make up for what happened in the past. And so I am all Imperial Guard, no matter how cool the Space Marines are, or the bugs, or the orcs, or the
No
other
matter how
stuff.
much the Space Marines get love.
Yeah, they get a lot of love, and there are people who like the Guard, but they're not exactly static. If they're Guard fans, I've noticed they are ecstatic about it, but most people aren't.
Dude, I am obsessed with the Kriegers too, man. I just finished Dead Man Walking this morning. Good God, or yesterday morning. I was shook by the ending of that book.
Yes, I love the short stories, the two of them. What was the other one called? Dead Man Walking and freaking can't remember right now. But
I think a lot of people at least have some sort of soft spot for one group of Imperial Guard or another, even if it's like maybe they just like the Gaunt Ghost stories or something like that. Because of all of the groups, they're the most theoretically relatable who we are as people.
That's
and
true.
yep, and that's just the thing. I like them because they're just people. They're not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but they try to do whatever they can to survive and pull through to the next day.
Yeah,
You
their
could even
superpower is getting back up when they get knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
you get that's I think it's another reason why people like the Inquisition too, is because not a lot of people in the Inquisition, they're not psychers. Like Ravenor and Eisenhorn, they're a rare few.
That's right. That's right.
Like, and you can relate to the rest of them.
Mm-hmm. So that's what made me fall in love with Warhammer and want to look more into it. Did anyone have a question about it?
How far along are you with your Krieg army?
I haven't even started.
I was gonna say, because that is probably one of the most expensive armies to build right now, because most of it's
Yeah.
resin.
Well, not even that. I don't even know if they're continuing with resin. They have the plastic for the kill teams, but a kill team
Yeah, but
Krieg is 50.
for 10 or 60
Ooh.
now
Sorry, Geronimo,
with
don't worry
the
about that.
the
Okay.
price increase.
That's for
Oof.
later.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm not happy about the price. Yep, I'm not exactly happy about the price increase at all.
I just felt my wallet get stabbed. That was wow.
I've actually bought my first Astra Militarum. I managed to find a box of the Cadian Stands box.
Yeah, did you end up getting that? You were talking about that.
Yeah, and it only cost like 138, so I was like, I'm very happy with that.
You got to hold
How
on,
many-
wait a minute. You just said this. There you go.
Yeah. So I'll be starting a small army, 500 points. I just need to get another squad and finish my Chimera.
Nice.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
No, sir.
Well, I got one. Have you thought about, so since the Kriegsmen are so expensive, have you thought about like trying to 3D print them? Because I've
3D
seen
print
some really good
them.
STLs.
So I do have the STLs for a few, but I'm trying to get into 3D printing. I'm just not really, it's not working out for me. And it's just something I just can't figure out for myself. Because I have got the Artillery Sidewinder X2, and it's just not working out for me. I just need to
That's
go out and learn from someone or go to a class from somewhere to honestly figure it out.
that's fair.
Not a bad idea.
Yep. So I do have a 3D printer. I've got one of the it's one of the ones where you use the wire to melt plastic into what you're making. I forgot what it's
Called
called.
Oh
a
yeah.
filament.
Yeah, filament. I've got a filament one, and I'm just trying to go through that before I go to the resin. Because honestly, I'd rather make more art. Like, hey, here's a guardsman helmet, here's guardsman armor, here's a little statue of 40K.
That's not a bad idea.
That's
Like
cool,
just
bro.
doing that.
Mm-hmm. Plus, there's
I've personally got some recasts
mm-hmm.
before, and they were actually super high quality, and they were $15.
Oh yeah. Like there's a lot
And
of
I was
3D
like,
printing.
oh my god.
There's a lot of 3D printing that is high quality, like better stuff than what GW has put out.
Yeah.
And when people go like, here's one of the same thing that was 3D printed, and they're going like, that other
Can't
one
tell the
was
difference.
3D printed because it looks worse.
Right. I've also, related to that issue of cost, I mean, I know if you're participating in actual sanctioned tournaments and competitions and stuff, then having official figures is really important. But what are your thoughts, besides the 3D printing, what are your thoughts on buying like third-party models that, obviously are inspired, and I hope you could hear my air quotes that I did there, inspired by Games Workshop, but aren't actual official?
Well, honestly, even with like bits, 3D print bits and put on it, I think you should be able to because it's just getting so expensive.
Right.
Like I've actually bought miniatures from Australia that were cheaper and they were mailed to me.
Yeah.
I've
My
actually Oh, go ahead.
Warhammer shop that I go to almost on a weekly basis, they're okay with bits, with
Mhm.
third-party bits, especially if it's for like a faction that they don't make bits for. Like if
Yes.
GW doesn't make bits for it, but as long as the base model is a GW model, the guys at the shop really don't care that much. But if you're straight up creating entire models out of something else, they won't even let you in the store
Yeah.
with that, or let you play with that model.
Hmm.
But as long as the base model is, because I have a really awesome Redemptor Dreadnought that's Alpha Legioned out, has scales on it, and a lot of the bits are third party from Pop Goes the Monkey, and
That's the best company name ever.
they don't make anything like that for it through GW. And they're like,
Hmm.
as long as the base model's good, GW, you can play with it all you want, man. And I was like, cool.
Hmm.
And they've been really nice about it. So they'll understand. I think it really depends on store to store too.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because I don't have an official Warhammer store where I live, but there's a gaming place. Like they host tournaments all the time. They host game. You can go in there and play games all the time. So I I haven't gone in there and played yet because I'm still building my army, and I'll get into that later. But you very easily could play there. I just don't know.
I say we save this for a future episode for when we really want to dive into it. What do you guys say?
Yeah, I think that's
Nothing
good.
wrong with the parking lot. Okay.
Okay, parking lot. Well, with that, Lysander, how would you like to go?
Well, I got into Warhammer in the fall of 2021. I actually started reading the books before I actually got into the modeling side of the hobby. So the first book I ever read was Horus Rising. A friend recommended it to me, so I read it, really loved it, and I, started reading them like they were going out of style. Went through a nasty divorce,
Mhm.
and that I've been in therapy for a long time, and my therapist was like, "I need you to find a hobby because you're a stressed out individual." And I'm a very active person too. I'm a complete gym rat, sports cars. Like I try to do everything big into hunting, outdoorsman. And he's like, I need you to slow down. I need you to find a hobby that is focus intensive but non strenuous. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. And he's like, oh, for example, pottery, canvas painting, modeling. And once he said modeling, the light bulb went on. And I was like, well, there's this thing called Warhammer that I read about a lot. And so I bought a Blood Angels Combat Patrol. And I went to a local GW store that I live 5 minutes from. And they had a lot of tables where you could sit in there, and the guys in there will teach you how to paint. They taught you how to, shave off sprue lines and mold lines and all that stuff. How to mix your paints if you need to water them down. And it was really cool how open the hobby was. And if you would have asked me, 10 years ago if I'd be painting angry plastic spacemen, I would have told you to go kick rocks. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. But so this um, psychological, therapeutic exercise evolved into a real passion, and I'm all in on it. I have 3,000 points of Night Lords for 30K. I have an Imperial Knights army that's only getting bigger. I have 2,000 points of Blood Angels now. Just started a crusade last week for my local Warhammer store. And it's helped me out. I am friends with people that I would not have normally been friends with. I started a book club where I live at the local Warhammer store. We meet once a month. That's also forced me to read about other factions that I would have never wanted to read about, and I ended up reading about them, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool too. And it really depends on the writer, but that's how I got into Warhammer, was a little nudge from my therapist of all people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can I
Very cool.
ask one thing?
Go ahead.
Can you tell everyone what a crusade is, game-wise, tabletop-wise?
A crusade, it's almost a narrative. I'm actually learning myself. We're doing the Pariah Nexus Crusade. I just bought the rule book last week.
That's
And
the new campaign that just came out, right?
yes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Other rules for the loyalists, the heretics, and the Necrons, and everyone? Or is it just certain factions?
so every faction can play this crusade. The way that the crusade organizer is setting it up is it's going to be Imperial factions versus Necrons versus everyone else.
Okay, okay.
That's kind of the way it got explained to me.
Mm-hmm.
We have, I think we have 10 Imperial factions. We have 7 Necrons, and I think we have 10, Orcs, Chaos, Tyranids, everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually kind of excited about it. I've only played like 4 games of 10th edition so far, but I think this was a good reason for me to play more. So that's why I signed up for it. And we're really going into it.
Nice.
I actually went and grabbed the book when you mentioned it.
Pius, Spy, did you have any questions for
And
Lysander?
Yeah, I got a question. And this is related to using the hobby as a what's the word I wanted? Sorry, my I
Point?
used to be smart, but I'm dumb now as I've gotten older. Yeah, to use it as a therapy tool. So I have been involved in addiction recovery in my life, and one of the things that's advocated in that is one way to stay to stay away from your addiction is by filling your time with other things. So, based on your experience and using the hobby as a therapy tool, would you recommend it as an option for helping anyone who may be struggling with an addiction as well?
absolutely, because this turns into an addiction, but it's a healthy addiction. I put this hobby in terms of like therapeutic um exercises in the same category as going to the gym, because you're exercising your brain, you're really hyper focused on something. um when people do this hobby, they only get better at it. This is and it's just like the gym. When you keep going to the gym, you are going to get stronger. You are going to get faster. You are going to lose that weight if you just keep going and doing the things you do and just get better at it. Modeling's the same way. You're going to, prep your models better before you prime. You're gonna, you know, you know, thin your paint down to get that perfect texture. You're gonna start messing with dry brushing. You're gonna just keep putting more tools in your toolbox for the modeling, and you're going to be hyper focused on that, and it kind of shuts everything else out that's bothering you in your life, whether you're stressed out, in my case, went through a nasty divorce, and PTSD from other things in life. It just, but to shorten this up, absolutely yes, I would highly recommend it to anyone who's going through any sort of addiction issue, whether it be alcohol, drugs, whatever.
Awesome. Thank you.
Lysander, if you have anything else to say.
No, that's it. Let's move on. We got a
Alright.
lot of questions to go through.
Well, did Spy
Yes,
have a
we do.
question?
No, I don't.
Okay. So,
I knows everything
go ahead.
already.
right. All right then. So, Spy, let's go with you now. How did you get into the hobby? And to begin with, what were some of the experiences that made you fall in love with the hobby?
So I have a very funny story. How I first got introduced into the hobby was, I want to say 2019, 2020, somewhere in between there. Me and my family were down in the DFW area, and we were going down Grapevine, on the main street. Me and my sister, we walked in. I saw this giant statue of a space marine, and I'm like, "What the heck is that? I don't know what that is." So I told my sister, "Hey, come on, let's go. Let's go see what's in there. What that store is."
For the Emperor!
So we walk inside, and I'm just met with just a wall of miniatures. I had no idea what any of that stuff was. We walk around for a little bit, like I'm just looking at all the models, and I lean over to my sister and tell her, "This place smells like virgins." We walk out.
Emotional damage!
We walk out, and we just continued with our day. And 2 years later, I'm into the hobby, just full in. Guess I'm a
Yes,
virgin.
we can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you say you went full in, you really went full in. You got a lot more than me.
Yeah. That has been almost a year in the making. Yeah, so that was how I got introduced into the hobby, but how I just fell into it was surprisingly running across Westheimer on TikTok, seeing his stuff. I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of cool.
He got a lot of people in the hobby.
Yeah, and I hadn't really read the books or anything like that, but as soon as I saw his video on the Adeptus Sororitas, I fell in love. I'm like, I have to make this army. And I have slowly but surely been building this army. And every time I go down to Dallas to where it all started, I immediately go and straight to the Adeptus Sororitas, see what new models I have and what they have, and if they don't have what I'm looking for, I won't bother. But if I see something that catches my eye with the sisters, I immediately buy it.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Pius, Lysander, do you have questions for Spy?
I do. I have a quick question, and this is just a shot in the dark. There in the Dallas area, have you heard? I don't even know if it still exists, but there was a store called the Soldier Store. that carried a lot of this stuff. That wouldn't happen to be where you're going, is it?
No, I go to Grapevine. I go to the Warhammer Citadel.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you lucky son of a gun.
Oh, why is that?
Oh, I've always wanted to go to a Citadel. And I think the one in the Dallas-Fort Worth area is the only one in the United States.
So, what is the difference between a Citadel and a regular GW store?
A Citadel has like a coffee shop, like a little restaurant, a ton of gaming tables. It's way bigger than your typical GW store. Like the GW store where I live is one of the bigger ones. It has, 4 painting tables, it has 3 gaming tables. If you go to any other GW store in the United States or the UK, they're like the size of your living room. They're
Yeah, they're
tiny.
pretty tiny. Yeah.
Um, most of them will have like a display place where they can teach you how to paint or how to assemble a model and maybe one gaming table. I'm lucky. My GW store is pretty big. Yeah, a Citadel is huge compared to other GW stores, at least in the United States. When I was in the UK last October, I was thinking the GW stores would be a little bit bigger. No, they were even smaller. But everything's bigger in Texas.
Noted.
That it is. And to answer your question, Pius, that store that I think that you're talking about
Yeah.
actually still is there.
Oh, baby. I remember going in there and they had barrels of dice, and it was just like, wow. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that'll be on my list of going places the next time I'm down there.
Very cool.
Cool. Any other questions? No? Okay. All right. Well, let's start with the second question. What was the first 40K/30K book you read? Pius?
I had to look this up
Look.
to make sure that it existed and that I just wasn't crazy.
Well, with
But
how much they retcon, you could be crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Don't even get me started on retcons.
Yep.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a whole future discussion.
yeah, that's
But it was actually Inquisitor, which I found out in my research, the one by Ian Watson.
Oh God.
Yeah, that was actually the first 40K novel published. And I'm reading it, and it was, I mean, compared to the more recent work, it was absolutely nutters, the stuff going on in it. And in my research into the book that I just did, there's like pages and pages talking about retcons that have been done in the book itself. And so that was kind of interesting to look at. But yeah, that was the first one I read. It was handed to me by Brian, again, my friend, because he's like, "Oh, you like the squats here? This has got a squat character. You'll really like it." And just trying to take apart that universe, that was definitely a baptism by fire in that regard.
Very good. And let's see. Well, with me, my first book I read was Commissar Kane for the Emperor. That was the first book I read. And
That's a good one.
oh yeah, it is, and I'm very happy with it because it actually has I got the paper one with the red cover, the paper book, and it actually has the short story of how it all started for him too.
Yeah,
Nice.
my buddy was able to get his hands on one of those before they I think they discontinued it.
Already?
I'm not too sure. I don't know. He told me that he found it in a thrift store one day, but
Oh, this is
I
brand
haven't
new
talked.
when they reissued it out.
So he
So
got. I think he got one of the
older ones,
originals,
original.
the older ones, not the reprint.
I got the reprint one. Very nice. So yeah, I'm a big
Yep.
Commissar Kane fan. I wonder why.
Huh. I wonder why.
Lysander, how about you? What was your first book?
Okay, so I told you guys that a friend recommended Warhammer to me, the Warhammer books.
Yep.
Uh, well, before I started reading the books, I did some research on the universe first. So I watched a lot of Luton, and I started with his Birth of the Imperium
Mm-hmm.
videos that are like each an hour and a half long.
Yes.
And I swear to God, I have probably watched those a dozen times. I will fall asleep to that stuff. I'm completely part of the Luton Sleep Club. And I started with Horus Rising in the 30K setting. And I read Horus Rising all the way through Flight of the Eisenstein. And then I just started skipping around, reading everything from, modern 40K setting to then bouncing back to 30K. But Horus Rising did it for me, and I'm an enormous Garvio Loken fan. R.I.P.
Very nice. Now, Spy, what was your first book?
Uh, so my first book was Indominus, or I don't even know how to pronounce it. I'm very dyslexic.
Indominus?
Yeah, by Dave Thrope.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first introduction in the book series. I used to work at a bookstore, and I had seen it on on the shelves, and I was like, okay, whatever. I finally decided, you know what, screw it. If I'm gonna go into this hobby, I might as well start reading the books. Started it. I've never finished it.
Mm-hmm.
I have very, very bad ADHD.
Oh, look, a
So
squirrel.
if I'm like, oh, squirrel, and then I just lose track, and so I'm trying to go back and read all my old stuff that I have. Clearly, it's not working.
Maybe you should just write a book yourself, and maybe you'll pay attention there.
Trust me, I have been trying.
All right then.
A lot harder than it looks.
Well, I'll take your word for it. So,
Thank you.
what is? Let's go to the third question. Pius, what was your first army,
Squats.
and
Rats.
what did it say about you?
I have short legs,
We can see that.
so you see that. So I have to. I know that we're very 40K focused here, but I have to include the fantasy one as well. So in 40K, the squats, I loved the attitude, especially with the old squats, because you'd see they were like a biker gang in space with the motorcycles and the way they wore their helmet visors, more like sunglasses, and were cigar chomping and just very chill, and I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then in fantasy, the reason I love the Rat Boys and it touches on my appreciation for AdMech is the whole crazy weird science approach to things. Uh, just wire a bunch of stuff together and see if it explodes is something I get a big kick out of. And I know it's supposed to be a grim, dark tank universe, but I really appreciate when there's a bit of humor involved as well too. And I found humor in both the squats and in the ratty boys. So,
Oh, I believe you, because humor in high stress situations is always helpful.
just you can't laugh, you're doomed.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right. Did you guys have any questions about his army?
Did you ever do a old world um dwarven army?
No, I never did an old world dwarven army, mainly because all of the old world dwarfs I painted end up being used for tabletop RPG instead. Um, yeah, because I'm a role playing geek as well, so any dwarf that I painted inevitably became a character in a D&D game or something like that.
That's funny you say that. I just pre-ordered my first Warhammer RPG game called Wrath and Glory.
Nice.
I'm gonna test it out, see how it goes. I've never done D&D. I've never done any of that. I've only ever done 40K. So I'm gonna check it out to see if I like it.
Very good, very good. Bye. Any questions?
I do have one. Did
Yes,
you
sir.
ever get your hands on the squat battle tank or battle train?
Oh yeah, I asked the same question. You'll be surprised.
Not like for regular 40K size, but I had one in what are they, the Armageddon size, the what do they call it, the Titan size.
Epic.
Epic.
Epic,
Yeah.
yes, Epic, thank you. So it looks more like a uh, uh, a Monopoly moving token, so it's about that size.
I, yeah, maybe GW will actually finally give the Leagues of Votan more love, and I'll actually give them more models, especially the battle tank. I
Oh,
want to see that so bad.
I can't wait for them to get their own mech. When they get their own mech, like a knight-sized mech, it's gonna be amazing, and it's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
I think the League of Votan is very cool looking, and I'm gonna pick up at least a couple of the kill teams just because they look really fun to paint.
Dope. All right then. Well, as for me, the army I'm starting out with is the Astra Militarum, and
Shocker.
right, and I'm not doing Death Corps as much as I want to. I'm just gonna do a type of air quotes, air fingers, home regiment based on the Polish resistance. Because,
It's
Alpha Legion.
beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of cool. I haven't really been really looking to see what people do for homebrews regarding other factions and stuff like that. I only see the Space Marine side of things and the Chaos side of things. So it's interesting to see you doing a Astra Militarum homebrew based off Polish resistance. So I'm really excited to see what you do with that.
The state within the state, or the state and within the Imperium.
Yeah. And I love that because that's a great example of using historical inspiration. And this is a side rant, and I'm sure we'll delve deeper into it in the future. But there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, if you like Warhammer 40K, then you're a Nazi," and it's just like, no, not at all. Here, you want to play Polish Resistance, and I don't think any of us have said anything. It's like, you know what I really like? I like skulls on my helmet and genocide. That didn't come out of anybody in our discussion. So,
Oh,
Trust me, I know. The Astra Militarum, or, the formerly known as the Imperial Guard, they should really show more love with bits, and I'm happy about 3D printing, bringing this up again. There are bits where you can actually add and make your models more of that faction.
Awesome.
We'll get into factions later. There's a lot to name.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a later on episode whenever we get to it.
Yes. Now then, Lysander, what was your first army?
My first army was the Blood Angels, combat patrol box that I bought in 2021. Built that up. I'm sitting just over 2,000 points. I still need to paint my Dante. You pulled it up right there. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually thinking about converting them to flesh tears because they're already sort of flesh terror colors already. So I just need to get myself Gabriel Seth and get that angry guy out there.
Very good. Any questions about his army?
So I'm curious with your Dante, if you're thinking about it already, are you planning on going with like the heavy chrome look or the more battered in battle look?
I am probably gonna paint him gold and then do some stipple battle damage here and there.
Uh-huh.
I can't like a lot of people love doing like the devastation of ball look on the bases, but I think I'm gonna do something else. I'm not quite sure yet.
Mhm.
But I am definitely gonna do the gold, but he might get a little bit of a wash of some sort on him to make him a little bit more faded because he did cross the Rubicon, as far as we know, in the new Lion book. But I don't know yet because he's gonna have to have some fresh, brand new armor if he's gonna cross the Rubicon.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And also, just hold on, follow-up question real quick. With him crossing the Rubicon, do you think he regrets surviving?
Absolutely, but at the end of the book in Devastation of Ball, Sanguinius literally tells him, "You can't die yet. You have a divine destiny that you need to fulfill before I let you die." So I think with that knowledge, Dante has come to terms, as much as he wants to die, that he has more to give. So I think but at the end of that book, he has come to terms with that. And even at the end of the Mephiston book, um, I think he's really come to terms that he just can't die yet.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Bai, do you have any questions?
So, with the Dante model, are you gonna stick with the? For me, in my opinion, so don't crucify me on this. But are you gonna stick with the absolutely stupid pose that he has, where he's pushing away from the pillar, or are you going to try and make it to where he looks like he's flying off the pillar and not pushing away from it?
I am thinking about not even using the pillar. I'm thinking about using something else.
I can't wait to see that then, because me personally, I don't like that stance. So I'm curious to see what you go with.
I'm thinking about using a dead Chaos Marine, to be completely honest, like a Terminator or something.
That'd be a nice
That'd
touch.
be cool.
All
I've
right.
done
Yeah,
some cool kit bashes. So
you
Nice.
definitely have to show those because I'm curious and see what you have. But we'll get into that on a later topic in a later episode.
Right, right. All right then. Spy.
Well, obviously, my army is the Sisters of Battle, which that'll be probably what I go with for a little while now
Mm-hmm.
until I can finally finish painting them and putting them together, which I keep putting it off. I've got too much stuff going on right now, so I can't sit down and actually put everything together.
Oh, look, a squirrel.
Yeah, no kidding. So, but as soon as I finally put them together, I'm thinking of doing a homebrew version of the Sisters because I'm not a fan of all the other pre-established orders. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of doing an order called Order of the Bleeding Hydra.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that very well. We discussed about. We just gotta figure out the paints and the army.
Yep.
Oh, I have the I can. I'll DM you what I used for my Alpha Legion because I like my Alpha Legion to look really dark. I hate it when they're like a super bright blue. I like them like a really, really dark teal. And I'll
Yeah.
send you how I did that. It turns out really cool.
Yeah, you definitely have to send that to me. And whenever I finally get around to doing it, which I have a free model that I got after spending way too much money at the Citadel, which is not posted below, but as soon as I get it together, that'll be the first model I paint, so I can experiment with that one.
All right, all right.
Very good.
Yeah.
Any questions for Spy?
Is this gonna be a chaos or traitor Sisters of Battle? Since I just watched a West Hammer that there are chaos Sisters of Battle.
There's always been Chaos Sisters, even
Yeah.
before the whole thing with the Angron, where he made everyone blood crazed.
Yeah. I've never really been a fan of Chaos. Like nothing's really like caught my eye and said, "Okay, I'm doing Chaos." Nothing's really caught my eye yet, and
So doing like me and going Imperial Alpha Legion.
yeah, Imperial Alpha Legion kind of.
Remote Renegade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that'll be my next army whenever I finally finally finish that army and start working on the second army. Is going to be it'll be Alpha Legion Renegades because I still believe that the Alpha Legion has some quote unquote war bands that are loyal.
That is
So-
canon.
It
That
is
is
canon.
absolutely canon.
Yeah,
There's
because I know.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I know that in oh gosh, I don't remember the name of the book, but one of the books it says underneath the Imperial Palace, there are Alpha Legionnaires who are in stasis, and they have two commands. One is to fully go into chaos, or to stay loyal to
There's
the
three.
Emperor.
There was three commands.
Okay, what was the third one? Because I don't remember what the third one was.
The third one was to flat out go after chaos.
Yeah.
And I think that that command was like Xenophon or something. But you're talking about the End of the Death series. Ingo Petch talks about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just been a while.
And I love that idea of groups of alpha going renegade and being loyal to humanity more than being loyal to the emperor.
Oh, that's my resistance right there.
And that's definitely where I fit too. Is like, and you know, the two brothers out of all of the well, except maybe Girlyman, were smart enough to be like, maybe we're not going the right direction. But Horace's plan is even worse, so
Mm-hmm.
that's headcanon.
Also, for everyone just to know, Girly Man is someone called Gilliman. We'll go over that later.
Oh God, not Gilligan. Oh my God, all the names.
Right, right,
But anyways,
yep.
let's move on.
All right then. Any questions? No? Okay.
No.
Let's go to the. All right, hold on, guys. You guys want to do the fourth question and end it there, or do you want to do the fifth question still?
I'm down with doing all the questions.
Yeah, I am too.
Okay. I just wanted to make
I
sure.
think well,
Okay, then we're almost to an hour, so we'll be cutting a bit close.
All right,
All right.
because
Then.
we're going to be editing down a lot of stuff too.
We
Remember that. I mean,
we
you are,
you have to
or
leave
unless you
this
found an
in here.
editor.
You have to leave this in here.
Lol. I'll leave it in here then. All right. With that, let's continue then. Fourth question. What did everyone think about the final book of the Horus Heresy? Did you expect what was introduced, and did you think what was a good final addition to the Horus Heresy series?
I can't wait to answer this.
Good.
Oh my goodness.
Let's go to Pius first.
Okay, so I haven't read it yet, but that makes my answer a lot easier. But this is my moment where I'm allowed to fanboy on Dan Abnett and say I'm glad that they let him run with it, because I've of the modern writers, I've enjoyed Dan Abnett's work the most, because this may seem a strange way to phrase it. It feels like he humanizes the 40K universe better than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I could agree with that.
As
I have to say ADB does a pretty good job too.
mm-hmm. And who was ADB?
Aaron Dembski Bowden.
Very good. As for me, I have not read the book either. I've heard nothing but good things, and I just need to start the Horus Heresy. Honestly, I haven't started at all.
Killing me, Smalls.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
don't
I'm in
have a
that
lot of money
same
for
boat.
books. I can't even do book club this month.
I mostly
because-
rely on my Audible. So
Yeah, Audible. Every once in a while, a pile of books will come through Humble Bundle as well. A good place to pick them up in e-format.
Am I the only one that actually reads a book? Like
Dude,
rereads?
I
try
have
to.
I have two almost 3 rows of 40K books staring at me in my living room right now.
Nice.
I have no idea how many I have right now. Too many to count.
I've only got one.
Again,
Yeah.
that's why I need to sit down and read all of them.
Well, I've read every single one of those books. I think there's 30 up there, and I probably have over 100 on Audible.
I've read
Dang.
every Kane book except for a few of the short stories.
That's awesome.
I'm very happy. I hope they reissue the books so I can collect them all.
Mm.
Now, it's time for...
Maybe you'll get your wish.
Yeah, I hope
I
so.
love the sense of humor in the Kane books.
Oh yeah, I love it. And the timing and the comedy and... Well,
Yeah.
they're all human.
Yeah.
He's the reluctant hero. Like, he thinks he's like, a coward and stuff like that, but he's constantly kicking ass. So
By modern standards, he'd probably just consider himself the, anti-hero. But
Right.
but to everyone else, he is the light at the end of the tunnel. He is what people want to become, strive for. Because they misinterpret it, and he just rolls with it.
I like Kane a lot. He's awesome. but I'm a Gaunt guy. I am an Ibram Gaunt guy. Oh my god.
I need to start that too. I hear good things about the Gaunt's Ghosts.
It's Band of Brothers and 40K.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
that is the best way to describe it I've heard, and I just want to start it.
And it is beautiful, and it's encouraging, and it's heartbreaking, and if it has questions of faith, I mean, it's the good stuff.
It's so good. There's a reason why a couple of those books were national bestsellers.
Yeah,
Would you like to mention those
so-
books?
Necropolis was one of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay then.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to you, Lysander. What did the Horus Heresy series, the final book, do for you?
Oh my goodness. So I had read the Beckwin books pretty early on in my 40K reading, and I screwed up. You should definitely read Eisenhorn, Ravenor, then Beckwin.
Mm-hmm.
I did it completely backwards, but a lot of characters, a lot of themes that Dan Abnett has been introducing in Eisenhorn, Ravenor, and Beckwin were consistently mentioned in End of the Death Volume 3.
Mm-hmm.
One of the people that was mentioned in End of the Death Volume 3 was a lady named Lillian Chase.
Mm-hmm.
She is one of the founders, if not the founder, of the Cognite, which is an organization that's even older than the Inquisition, as sort of a shadow inquisition, a anti-inquisition, a anti-Golden Throne Emperor organization who have been fighting behind the scenes for over 10,000 years now to get rid of what we know as the Imperium. And what we're going to see in the future with when we get the fifth question, these new books is going to change 40K forever. Like the entire End of the Death Volume 3 changed 40K forever just based on what we know what happened to the Emperor, what he gave up, what he almost became. I'm sure a couple of you guys have listened to some of the reviews on this book, or maybe have read a spoiler or seen a spoiler on it. But that book really brought back some really old themes that we thought were retconned, including the idea of the Star Child. That is a very old, like late 90s piece of lore that was mentioned and actually kind of threshed out in the Death Volume 3 that we're seeing, in 2023. We didn't think that was gonna, or excuse me, 2024 now. So I loved all three volumes of End of the Death, and if you guys haven't read it, you really need to.
Repent.
At least read the Siege of Terra series, if not the entire Horus Heresy.
I just plan to start in the beginning for the Horus Heresy.
Well, there's 50 books, man.
I'm well aware. I can read. I'll be fine. I just need to get my hands on them.
You need a Kindle, my friend.
I do have a Kindle.
Well, you get after it, buddy.
You were being called to repentance, brother.
Now then, what about you, Spy? What did you think of the final book?
I'm in the same boat as Pius. I haven't read it yet. I need to.
I'm the
Maybe
only
when.
one.
Yeah, you're the only
Yeah,
one.
you're the only one.
Who the heck even posted this question, man?
Someone who wanted to
Yeah.
know what it was about without reading it.
Exactly.
That was Spy. Spy did the questions for the script, okay? He did all the questions. You ask him.
Hey, I asked for suggestions and y'all didn't come up with anything, so I threw it out there. But I did get a little bit of it spoiled for me.
Lol.
So knowing what the Emperor could have become was just so interesting to me.
Stop dancing
And-
around it. What was he tempted with?
I don't exactly remember what he was tempted with.
He was about to become the
A
fifth
chaos god?
chaos
Yep.
god.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he had sucked up so much warp energy because when the vengeful spirit actually started like in some warp nonsense, the vengeful spirit was actually merging on a parallel plane with the imperial palace. It was
Oh, snap.
it was bonkers. The entire siege, like the Night Lords were popping out of the walls. Like, did any of you guys read the Night Lords Omnibus?
Yeah.
Not yet.
There's a absolutely batshit crazy raptor. I forget his name, and he was the first one to break into the Imperial Palace. And he's like, "Yeah, this is great. I'll always have this achievement under my belt." And then he watches some freaking world eater just walk through a wall. He's like, "What is going on?" Well, that's out of the. That's this means nothing now, and it was kind of a funny moment because you see that character again in the Night Lords Omnibus. And
Yeah. And you're right. He's an absolute nutbag in there. He's got serious
Emotional damage.
that messed him up.
Yeah, but so he is actually talked down by Olennius Pius. The emperor is talked down by Olennius Pius. Hey, if you do this, this will be the end of humanity as we know it. And you're not the man that I used to know. Because Olennius Pius is a perpetual, and he had been part of the group of perpetuals that the emperor had originally brought together to, steer mankind into the right direction until the emperor's ambitions were getting a little too out of whack for Olennius Pius, and Olennius Pius maintained his Christian faith even
Amen.
in the modern setting.
Sorry. There's a reason that I use that name.
Lol. Just so everyone who is watching knows, this is all canon. And if you're saying, "Oh, spoilers," a lot of this information's old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was just formally documented. It was written out. It was mentioned before, but the story was finally built around it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
So
just
it's
so you all
finally been
know,
fleshed out.
everything is canon. You watching this podcast is canon. This group is, canon. All this is canon. We don't question things. We just roll with it.
Yep.
All right, then.
And to everybody, remember that the stuff that we are mentioning, like, yeah, they're spoilers, but it's GW finally deciding, okay, we're going to build a story around it, no longer be lazy about it. I'm like,
And we're back. We had some technical difficulties. Don't question it.
yeah, I went on a little autistic side tangent. But anyways, we'll move on to our fifth question.
All right, then. With that, we're going to go with with the introduction of the rumored new books and lore, what does everyone think will happen following the most recent book for 40K, which was the Lysander?
The most recent book that came out was The Lord of the Excess, but it doesn't really have any like overarching effect on the setting at all. But a book that is coming out this year, it was supposed to be the end of summer, but I haven't heard a peep about a release date, was Pandemonium, which is the final book in the Beckwin series. And if you guys don't already know, the there's a character called the King in Yellow.
Yeah, which is a Lovecraft reference.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. And turns out the King in Yellow is Constantine Valdor. He's returning to the setting, but what we don't know is his goal. But
Yeah.
what we do know is he's building an army of blanks, of pariahs.
All right, 2 questions. Who is Constantine Valdor? Let's go with that.
He was the commander general of the Custodes during the Horus Heresy. He was. Some people think he was the very first Custodes, but we don't fully know that. But he was the Emperor's hammer. So Malcador was his right hand man. Constantine was his left hand man.
Yeah, and he was a good friend of the Emperor's too.
Yes, he confided in Constantine. And so at the end of the Death, Volume 3, he has a spear. I forget the name of the spear.
I'm drawing a blank too.
But when he stabs someone with that spear, he can see their life. He can see their future. And when he stabbed Abaddon, he saw something that had him shook, and he vanished after the Siege of Terra. And there hasn't been anything about Constantine from the Siege of Terra until this revelation that he is, in fact, the King in Yellow. And based on a interview that they had with Dan Abnett, he's like, I got the green light from Games Workshop to do what we're going to do in the book. It's going to be called Pandemonium, the final book in the Beckwin series. It's going to change the lore, the setting, where the Imperium is going to go from this book. This might be the most important book for the modern 40K setting ever written.
Yeah.
And that's so many people are psyched for this because we're going to get Constantine back. At the end of Penitent, which is the second book in the Beckwin series, there's 5 craft worlds converging on this the city called Queen Mab, in this like nobody cares about world, and then you find the Chaos are trying to go after the King in Yellow. The Inquisition's going after the King in Yellow. You have traitor Space Marines going after the King, especially the Word Bearers, and then there's this other group that has a mix of traitors and loyalist Space Marines going after the King in Yellow. It's bonkers. Like, in what world would a Raven Guard and a Night Lord be working together? It wouldn't freaking happen, but it is. And in this group of these traitors and loyals, there's a Thousand Sun, an Iron Hand, an Iron Warrior, Raven Guard, a Night Lord, all working together.
Which Night Lord is it? Is it one of the really crazy ones, or is it one of the more stable ones?
He based from the book.
That's kind of touching a line.
Yeah. He was. I think he was one of the more stable ones, or he wouldn't have been working with this specific group. I won't even call them a war band because there's only like 5 or 6 of them. I actually
So just a
wrote.
squad.
Yeah, I actually wrote this down. Let me grab
Yeah.
it. Which
All right.
Yeah.
um,
While
Just
he's
saying.
grabbing that, I love the idea of a huge shakeup like this. I think it's going to open up a lot of possibilities in the narratives. Maybe we're looking at that renegade faction that's going to be fighting more for humanity rather than the Imperium, and it will be interesting to see. That's, I know, dreaming in headcanon, but it would be beautiful.
Oh yeah, so I have the list. It was a Thousand Sun, an Iron Warrior, an Iron Hand, a Dark Angel, a Raven Guard, and a Night Lord. 3 traitors and 3 loyalists all working together. It's bonkers. This book, like, if you haven't read the Beckwin series, I highly encourage it. It's my favorite series
Yeah,
I have ever read, without a
I've read
doubt.
the first one, and it was just like, what? What is going on here? What? So
Oh,
yeah.
and I heard the greatest theory that the Alpha Legionnaire that's working for Eisenhorn is in
Mhm.
fact Ingo Petch from the Siege of Terra series.
Oh wow. Okay.
The one he got he got he didn't get frozen, but Olynius Pius strapped a motion mine to him underneath the palace, so he's stuck there, unable to move, or he blows up. And he was underneath the Imperial Palace.
Mm-hmm.
Though in the book, his name is Death Row, but you find out he's an Alpha Legionnaire, and he refers to himself as "I am Alfarius."
Well, we all are.
Which we'll go into later when we end this episode. Lol. So, all right. So, next question is, what is the King of Yellow?
The King in Yellow.
King in Yellow, yes.
It's just a well, on Queen Mab, it started off just as a legend.
Mm-hmm.
King in Yellow rules in this city in a parallel universe, which we don't know for sure, but we think it's in the Webway. That's why everyone has a tough time getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
And the city of Dust is ruled by the King in Yellow, which is like become this folklore in the city of Queen Mab. And turns out the King in Yellow is Constantine Valdor.
Right.
Right. And even going further back, the King in Yellow is, just for the reference, was written by Robert W. Chambers in 1895. Collection of short stories that are connected to the Lovecraft mythos later on. And the King in Yellow is this being that lives in a city that's in another dimension. Sometimes the city is called Carcassonne, which, if you've watched the first season of what was it? That detective with Woody Harrelson movie miniseries.
He was a detective in a
Anyway,
couple series.
and anyway, it's the idea that it induce in the original stories, the King in Yellow induces insanity and change through the production of a play. It's actually the name of a play that is performed, and anyone who either performs or witnesses the play goes mad.
Interesting.
I am very familiar
Yeah.
with that because the same story is in the SCP genre.
Yes.
They have a story about
Yes.
that.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's just made manifest in SCP, and it's not good.
Right.
So that is the King in Yellow.
Yeah.
Now then, there's a lot of stuff that we can go to about uh, what could happen. But what do you think what do you think will happen?
GW prices will go up.
That's already
Yeah, that
happening.
too.
That's already happening.
Yeah.
That's the only guaranteed. I mean, if I was putting money down, that's what I'm putting it on.
Well, we're gonna get a meeting between the Lion and Gilliman. We have to that has to happen. We got to see how that's gonna be fleshed out,
That is definitely going to happen in modern 40K.
and we're gonna see what happens if this is gonna spark a civil war, because we don't know if Constantine is going to remain loyal, even though he is genetically programmed to be loyal to the Emperor. Maybe he thinks he's being loyal to the Emperor. Is he using these pariahs? And if you don't know what a pariah is, a pariah, they're a blank. And humans are the only species in the entire universe that
Produces them.
that produces blanks.
Yeah.
And a blank basically nullifies the warp. So a blank will completely shut off a librarian's power to the warp, or any sort of psyker to the warp. Like
And that's what
they destroy demons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just and it even messes up non-psychers. They get nauseous in their presence.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, though, should be pointed out two things. One, for some reason, sisters' faith-based abilities are not always affected by blanks, and also squats used to have blanks called living ancestors that could
Ooh.
nullify, that were just, once a squat reached a certain age, they naturally became these blanks called living ancestors that could just nullify psychic powers by being there.
Yeah, and that's why, like, Sisters of Silence, they're one of the best weapons, even on the tabletop, against chaos demons and Thousand Suns and stuff like that.
Just
Yeah,
so everyone
just turns
knows, the warp is the Immaterium. It's literally heaven, hell, everything combined in one different dimension. So demons are real. The what's the word for H.P. Lovecraft?
like the Cthulhu mythos.
Yeah, something like that. There's a special word for it. I can't remember it, but all the messed up things are there. Your soul goes there. You're there
Eldritch
with
horrors.
them. What was that?
Eldritch horrors.
Yes, that's the word.
Yeah.
So that is the warp.
Not a very fun place.
Nope.
There are pockets of good.
There are.
Yeah, there are.
The warp wasn't always purely a demonic dimension.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which we'll go more into later episodes, because it is a
Sorry.
bit of a complicated ish topic.
Yeah, we could have an entire episode on that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I look forward to.
And we might possibly do that. You have to stick around to find out.
That's right.
Unless look, squirrel.
Yeah.
Oh, we're the kings of squirrel.
Squirrel. All right then. Did anyone have any questions?
I do not.
No, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. This is a lot of fun. I hope other people enjoy this, but even if they don't, I enjoy talking to you guys. So.
Well, if we all have fun, then doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what happens, as long as we're all having fun. I think that.
Why'd you
I
choose
think
that
that's
sound?
I think that should be the biggest takeaway is we didn't start this podcast to make money or anything like that. I mean, you can make money off these things, but at the end of the day, we're four dudes who enjoy the hobby. Don't really get to talk about this stuff a lot, but when we do, we can talk about it with the four of us and with the audience as well. So that's the biggest thing that you can take away from this, is that we are all just enjoying the hobby and talking and learning more about the history and the lore of 40K. If you catch my drift.
That's right.
All right then. Well, with no other questions, I think it's about time we try and end this.
All right.
It's bedtime for me. I got to wake up at 3:30 in the morning or 2:30
Oh,
in the
hard
morning.
man.
Yes.
Oh, I have to say this because of who I am. This is being recorded the Sunday before Memorial Day. So thank you for all of those who made sacrifices for the rest of us. And remember, the greatest way you can show your gratitude for those who sacrificed before is to try and make the world a better place for those who come after.
Well said.
Great.
All right then. Well, we're gonna actually end this on our intro we should have started out with, but with you not knowing what the Alpha Legion are, we're gonna just say what we are gonna say, and we'll most likely describe what the Alpha Legion is in the next episode. Just so you know why we're doing this, who we are, why we're all random, all different. So, I'm Alpharius. I'm joined with Alpharius. And Alpharius.
Hello.
And Alpharius.
We are Alpharius.
Yes.
And this has been a lot.
Yes. And with that, we hope you join us in the next episode. And we'll catch you in the far-flung future of agony, pain, and hopefully some goodness of the 40K universe until they turn at 50K.
Corpse starch.
No corpse starch.
No corpse starch. No corpse starch for you.
So we say, till next time, you have a good one.
All right. Good night.